managerial situation is. We'll talk to Graham in about 25 minutes' time. Wednesday night rugby as well. Rory O'Connor and Liam Toland on the show after 8 o'clock. And Jonathan Northcroft joins us in the football show as well to talk about his new book, which is all about the World Cup, if you're feeling nostalgic. Hello, Kenny.
The World Cup in general, the history of the World Cup, or the last World Cup?
The last World Cup.
Oh, right.
Shall we do, which is quite interesting? So Jonathan Northcroft, Sunday Times football correspondent.
I read him, I read quite a bit of him, yeah.
So he was talking about the perils and pitfalls of being a Sunday journalist. So you don't have a lot to do a lot of the time, you know. You're gone from one week to the other and so much is happening. And he said usually at other World Cups he'd travel around and meet different people and try and break stories and do bits and bobs. Yeah. But Russia being so vast, that was much harder to do. So he just said to himself, you know what, just for the love of the World Cup and what's going on, I'll write a Facebook blog every day. And he did that every day. And 33 days later, he had 40,000 words on his hands done and decided to compile it into a book of his World Cup journey.
All right, so non-footballing related events and a little bit of everything,
Just what was going on, you know?
Yeah.
General take on things.
It's a bit like that, you've just triggered a memory there, a book I read years ago about, who was the fella who wrote a book travelling around Ireland with a portable fridge?
Was it John McCarthy?
McCarthy's Pub?
Yeah, was that it? He took it upon himself just to carry this like mini fridge and literally just took himself around the country, and again stumbling into villages, and the fridge was a source of conversation, struck up a bit of conversation. People, that's a bit, what is it, fridge? And put it all down in book form and presented it. Excellent.
Could be McCarthy's Pub.
Yeah.
Rings a bell. Anyway,
get back to me.
5-3.
Welcome to Talking Books.
53106, the text number, @OffTheBall on Twitter. Kenny, good to have you with us. I won't lie, I know usually you're in a bit earlier on and you get a sense of what we're up to, and we're usually watching the Champions League football. Generally for the last hour, stick in your headphones, will you? Every time. It just breaks my heart.
He's going to put them in.
Come on, get onto it. Get onto it, will you?
I'm there, I'm with you. Right,
so basically for the last hour and a half, it has been quite brilliant. The Office has basically been hanging out with this guy.
That's such a racist question. Let me tell you, that's a racist question.
He has been in phenomenal form. Our favourite interaction was when Jim Acosta from CNN decided to have a little chat.
That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN.
He's so rude. And then there was a big fight and the press officer grabbed the mic off Jim Acosta and said, no, you're done. Took the mic off him, gave it to the next guy who felt like he should try and defend his colleague.
I think that's unfair.
You're a very rude person. The way you treat Sarah Huckabee is horrible. And the way you treat other people are horrible. You shouldn't treat people that way. Go ahead. Go ahead, Peter. Go ahead.
In Jim's defense, I've traveled with him and watched him. He's a diligent reporter who busts his butt.
Well, I'm not
like
a big fan of yours either, so
I understand.
To be honest.
He was just in. It was a tour de force. He was magnificent. You got to watch it back. It was the best hour. It went on forever.
It was like an hour and a half.
It just never ended.
The stream of consciousness, the hate.
Yeah, it was fantastic stuff. I mean, really was a low point.
It is, because it's unprecedented, really, isn't it? We've never seen it before. I suppose
it's just amazing. For the last 100, 200 years, you just would have assumed behaving like this would not curry well with most of the voters, and yet he's proving everything we thought we knew about public life wrong.
Yeah, but it's not that surprising, really, because I know people always, there's no brain in there, but he's not as stupid as he seems. He projects, because he's clearly playing to his base. They absolutely lap it up.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he knows what got him into the White House. He knows what's going to keep him there, and he's not going to charm the people who didn't vote for him over the next 2 years. It's going to be solidifying his own base and maybe grab a few here and there. So I don't think it's stupidity. Like, what's he doing? Where's he coming from? He's shooting himself in the foot. He's got himself elected president of the United States.
It's very true. That was the comedian Tony Hawks, who went around with the fridge. He went past my front door. Cheers, Colm and Kay and Arklow. Does that ring a bell? Tony Hawks, that's it.
Hawks. I wasn't really feeling. What did you say, McCarthy? Or
there is a McCarthy's Pub thing. I haven't read it, but I just, based on what you were saying,
thought you'd come across a bit smart. You've been found out.
Tony Hawks,
somebody's called you up. And
you're unbelievable.
Tony Hawks did a similar book about getting a #1 in Moldova, if I remember right as well. He was a stand-up comic. And
is it Hawk or Hawks, Shane? You're sticking through both.
I think it's singular.
Hawk.
Yeah. No, it's plural, because Tony Hawk is the skateboarding lad.
Well, I mean, people can have the same surname.
But no, there is a difference between the two.
Have you read the book?
Around Ireland with a Fridge.
Should have known, really.
Is by the English comedian Tony Hawk. He also did a book on taking on the Moldovan national football team and tennis. That's from Donegal, Rathout.
It's a great book, great read.
I'm getting Tony Hawk's and Tony Hawk. Either way, that's the guy.
Getting number one in Albania. That was
Around Ireland with a Fridge. And it was a great book, was it?
Oh, a great book, yeah. Just people. It's always the case, isn't the most mundane, you know what I mean? But great people, great stories. Yeah, brilliant.
McCarthy's Pub, I didn't read it, but I think that was the vague premise as well. He just went around to...
Different pubs.
Every pub called McCarthy's, or was it just every pub in the country?
I think it was every pub called McCarthy's.
Yeah, that rings a bell.
Couldn't have been every pub in the country still, guys.
Maybe one pub in every village, I don't know, you know.
Right, gotcha, yeah.
But maybe it was every McCarthy's.
But it was the fact which probably is the beauty, the genius of it, the book, that's Tony Hawk's, is the fact that he decided to take the fridge. So immediately when you say this fella who elected to take a mini fridge...
What was in the fridge?
Immediately grabs your attention. It was nothing.
Just a fridge?
It's just, yeah, it was just literally, you see somebody walking down the high street carrying a mini fridge, immediately you're going to be, it's going to grab your attention.
Well, straight away I'm going, what's in the fridge, Ken?
Exactly,
Clearly.
but then you're in.
Yeah.
The conversation started already, isn't it?
I guess it would. He'd get a bit sick of the same conversation.
But it's not the same conversation, that's the different people.
Yeah, they
coming from a
approach you,
different
you
angle.
go, I'm just carrying a fridge,
Different
and then you go,
person. Yeah,
what are you doing?
And the conversation goes off on a tangent.
Pete McCarthy is a journey of discovery through Ireland. He stands in the doorway of McCarthy's Bar in Castletown Bear in West Cork. This is what Kenny read. Well, it's not what Kenny read. Kenny read Around Ireland with a Fridge.
I'm going to read it.
It's just McCarthy's pub. He just stands in one pub in West Cork. Is that it? I don't know. Like, there's no point labouring the point here. We'll move on.
Yeah, you're
We'll
clean.
move on. So the news round is brought to you this evening with Screwfix.ie, champion of the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products. And as I mentioned, Manchester United in Turin, Richie.
Yes, indeed they are. And Jose Mourinho says tonight's Champions League Group H game away to Juventus is not crucial to their hopes of making the last 16. United start the night in second place. It's actually going to be third at this stage and 5 points adrift of their hosts. Meanwhile, Juve will qualify for the knockout phase with a win tonight. Juventus start with Wojciech Szczesny in goal, a back four of Matteo De Silio, Leonardo Bonucci, Giorgio Chiellini and Alexandro. In midfield, it's Sami Khedira, Miralem Pjanic and Rodrigo Bentancur, while Paulo Dybala and Cristiano Ronaldo and Juan Cuadrado make up the front three. For United, 2 changes for them with Ander Herrera and Jesse Lingard replacing Fred and Juan Mata. So David De Gea starts in goal. They've got a back four of Ashley Young, Chris Smalling, Victor Lindelof and Luke Shaw. In midfield, it's Ander Herrera, Nemanja Matic and Paul Pogba, with Anders Lingard and Alexis Sanchez either side of Anthony Martial. Mourinho says their chances of progress don't hinge
Jesse
on tonight's
Lingard,
events.
no?
What did I
Of
say?
course, it's a match that we want to win. Of course, it's a match we want to compete. Of course, it's a match that is not lost. We have to play. We want to play. And we want that very, very much. I think the best experiences for teams is when you play against teams that are really the top. And we have that opportunity tomorrow. But in relation to Champions League, doesn't matter what happened in here, doesn't matter what happened in Valencia. Even if Valencia wins and we lose and we get 1 point behind them, there are 2 more matches to play and we still can qualify. So I think we are going to fight for qualification until the last match.
He made this point. I watched his full press conference for about the 10-12 minutes. He made this point several times that tonight is not an important game. It's not going to decide qualifying. It's a nice way of cooling down the pressure as he goes into it. So we'll play some with Paul Pogba. He did a press conference as well. Interestingly, Pogba came out last night, did about 10-15 minutes. Really impressive, Paul Pogba.
As impressive as Donald Trump in that interview.
Even more impressive.
Speaks like 4 languages.
I was just going to say, for all, people dismiss him as social media aged, got nothing to say for himself, and yet he comes out and speaks fantastic English, really good. He's been thrown lots of tricky questions, how did you feel about losing the vice captaincy? All this kind of stuff. What's been wrong with your form? All these kind of questions. We'll play some of it later on.
Watched him during the World Cup being asked by, he's been interviewed by Peruvian journalists. So obviously in Spanish, and just no bother to him at all. Yeah. And you're like talking about a guy who's still in his early 20s and never played a tap in Spain. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, no, he is. He always comes across very well in interviews. You meant Jesse Lingard. Anders. You were thinking of Anders Lindegaard.
How many more
Danish goalkeeper,
former United goalkeepers can we fit into tonight's bulletin? Let's find out.
So Young, Smalling, Lindelof, Luke Shaw, Herrera, Matic, Pogba, and then Jesse Lingard and Sanchez and Martial. I presume Sanchez will play through the middle there. Sanchez better through the middle. I heard a few people saying at the weekend after the Bournemouth game, Ian Wright was making that point that they have to play him through the middle more where possible. Lukaku's injured. That's ultimately the reason he's doing that.
Yeah, but the problem you got with playing him through the middle is he's not playing the Manchester United team who play from the back into midfield and feed balls into the feet of their number 9, play little clever balls down the side and get plenty of combination plays off that number 9. You know, to go back to front quite quickly.
Yeah.
You know, man, the quality of the ball isn't that great at times from the centre half, so you need a number 9 who physically can impose himself, can pin centre halves, can actually win his fair share of headers and make the ball stick. That's how United really, that's their kind of DNA, certainly under Mourinho. So
it's a shocking thing to have to say these days, isn't it? That's the Man United DNA.
No, I wouldn't say shocking.
It is.
I've no problem with it. As long as you're effective doing it, Joe. As long as you're
It's
effective
not Manchester United's DNA.
Well,
going direct to a big lump up top.
No, it certainly hasn't been for the last foreseeable period. I've personally no problem with it as long as you're effective doing it. The problem is Manchester haven't particularly been that effective playing that particular way. But if you're going to do that, you don't play someone 5'4" high up the pitch. When you get the ball into his feet, yeah, he's busy and he can drop his shoulder. I'm still not convinced in terms of his link-up play at times. For me, he's a little bit instinctive, does his own thing. You can't quite read him. For me, I don't think he's actually an ideal number 9, and it's a pretty low bar. If people are saying, well, this is his best position, for me, it just tells you...
Well, Justine Wright said it, so you've shot him down well and truly.
Yeah, well, he has been struggling. It's been a real struggle from Sanchez. Like I said, up in record as saying I think it was the wrong sign at the time. I didn't think they needed him.
Yeah.
It's been a struggle for him. I'll be surprised if he's there in the long term, but he has exceptional individual quality, and any given moment he can kind of turn the game in your favour. But in terms of the actual makeup of the team, how he links up with people around him, I'm not totally convinced by it. As I'm not of Herrera. I asked for the team when I came in, and as soon as I saw Herrera in centre midfield, I just felt, you know, if ever there was an occasion to kind of be bold, even off the back of the weekend, I know they kind of didn't start well at Bron, but they finished well, won the game. A little bit of momentum, positivity going into the game for me. Again, an opportunity to throw Fred, Mata, a more attack-minded player alongside that front three. You get on the front foot a little bit more, but it's almost if he's taking a step back, get Herrera in there, sit in, make his tackles, be dogged. He's not going to be influential in terms of possession of the football. He's just in that 6-7 out of 10.
Has he picked this side with one eye on Man City at the weekend?
I don't think so. I mean, this is a big game for them, and I think they're trying to find their form a little bit, Rich. You know what I mean? They're desperately searching for the answers. He's mixing and matching in terms of personnel. Whereas the back four, it looks as if a little bit more of a unit in terms of Lindelof and Small and Shaw in there. And I think you can see potentially maybe that coming together. That central midfield again, they've spent 55 million on Fred, and it looks as if in one of their biggest games of the season, he's benched him. He's looked at him and said, do you know what, you still haven't convinced. He's another one who's brought in, spent big money on, had a look at him up close and thought, actually, I'm not too sure. One of the biggest games of the season, I'm parking on the bench and I'm bringing on somebody in Herrera who, 6-7 out of 10 is not going to pull up any trees, but at least I know what I'm going to get. So that's a little bit of a shame for me. I would have liked to have seen a little bit braver in the selection and incorporated, whether it's even Fred, even if he's lacking a little bit of confidence, hasn't quite showed up, show a bit of confidence in the lads, say, no, here's your opportunity on the biggest stage of all. Maybe this can transform your season in Manchester United. This can be the trigger for you becoming that kind of dominant centre midfielder that we hoped you would be when we brought you into the football club. So we'll wait and see.
McCarthy's Bar is a travel book. It's written by an Englishman called McCarthy, says the texter.
Of Irish origin.
His people left West Cork in previous generations. A hilarious book based on the fact that his only rule is never pass a bar with your name on it. McCarthy's Bar, brilliant book. R.I.P. Pete McCarthy, brilliant writer. Read it, lads. That's from Brian in Milltown, Malbay. And somebody says, I read the book. He said you should never pass a pub with your name on the door without having a drink. When Kenny passes Cunningham's pub, he should pop in for a pint.
Where's
Teetotal.
Where is it?
Oh, surely there's Cunningham's pubs around, no?
Is that? I've never.
Has to be.
You've never seen a Cunningham's pub?
Not sure I have. Well,
What?
I'm thinking of the Dublin area. I mean, I haven't travelled extensively around the country.
There was a Cunningham's funeral home up near me, but that doesn't really count, does it?
Oh yeah, it's Cunningham's funeral homes.
Well,
that doesn't suit your personality.
Wake, I don't know, a funeral wake, you could get a drink at a wake.
You don't
stretching
drink.
it a bit, isn't it?
You don't drink anyway.
There must be a few
Cunningham. For a carvery out there.
I just would have to presume to everyone in the country, pretty much, there's a pub with their surname somewhere.
Yeah, well, my uncle owns one with his name on it. So
there you go.
Interim.
I've seen a Molloy's around.
Outside your immediate family.
Just generally, yeah. There's bound to be Cunningham's pubs. I guarantee you'll have 3 texts in now from different spots. You can go down and do a...
Can't be too many in the north. Don't think I've ever seen one. Obviously, I've spent a bit of time in the north side growing up, but don't ever remember seeing a Cunningham's.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
In south side, I mean, I just wouldn't have wandered the south side of the city growing up.
This is going to be hashtag content for offtheball.com, sending you to any number of Cunningham's bars.
Actually, now that I think about it, I got an email earlier from Tim upstairs in the commercial side of things.
Why didn't he just walk down the stairs and tell you? What, did he have to send the email from
Modern
the stairs?
Modern World.
All right.
And McSport were listening to our exchange last night about rowing machines.
Have they been given out?
No,
All right.
I think they're perfectly happy with it. And they were saying, if we want to do it, we don't have to decide right now, we can decide later on.
Here you go.
If we want to do it, they can have Cunningham versus Molloy in a rowing contest to see who can reach 2K first.
Hashtag content. This is good.
2K. What's that minutes and what's that seconds and what do you reckon?
I reckon about
2-3 minutes.
No, I reckon we could be 10 minutes at it.
2K is like a
10
standard
minutes.
race. Standard race length.
That's a killer. 10 minutes of absolute head wreck.
I could be wrong actually.
Head wreck.
I could be wrong about that actually. Maybe it's more 5 minutes. 5 to 10.
I can't. I've got to be honest.
Fair.
Me go. Initial reactions, no.
Grant.
Ah, come on.
No.
Mano.
I'd just be contradicting myself. Everything that I said last night. I'd just
We
be.
get to beat him. Imagine wiping that smug look off his face.
Imagine you lose though. You've everything to lose. You're a professional athlete.
You're right. No.
Sorry about the confusion with McCarthy. No. With McCarthy's bar in Castletown Bar, West Cork, says the texter Ross, who's texted back in. He does, though, say, on a side note, that pub, which is McCarthy's in Castletown Bar, is run by two sisters whose father was a doctor who served in World War II with the RAF, and you should check out A Doctor's Sword. And A Doctor's Sword is a book which is about how an Irish doctor survived war, captivity, and the atomic bomb. There's a recommendation for you from one of the texters.
This has turned into a great little book corner.
And that's a nice little segment. Surprised you've missed it in terms of like, we were
Don't
talking.
get the dig in on him.
No,
There's no need to put a dig in.
No, we were talking last night in terms of.
Are you going for the dairy job?
No, I'm talking about the puppy. I'm gonna bring it back around to the.
No, don't.
You were the one who said you didn't want to talk puppy.
No, but what we didn't talk about last night in terms of the significance of the puppy to people, how that's kind of maybe changed over the last 20 years. Because when I was growing up, when I first went to England, so that's 25 years ago. For me, the puppy was all about. It was World War I and World War II. Yes. Commemorating people who died in both of those, and that was it almost exclusively. Yeah. Now you've mentioned the fact there of an Irish man who actually joined, so he would have joined up. Now we were neutral in the second war. Devil Air didn't take us in, but yet Irish men in their thousands, that man would have been one of them, actually signed up, felt an obligation to actually go and sign up in the British Army and fight in the Second World War. And a lot were kind of decorated. A lot of Irishmen were decorated in the Second World War, as opposed to the First, like in different circumstances. So
a lot of the First World War Irishmen who fought, it's terrible. They were shunned a little bit when they came back.
Kev's family mentioned
the
this
rising happened, so that changed the dynamic. But I mean, a lot of them went to World War I on the proviso that this will contribute to home rule ultimately.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, because they were patted on the back. It was actually in terms of the people, the Rising, who were actually booed onto the streets because they were seen to be actually very unloyal in terms of they should have been following Redmond and his supporters in terms of joining up. So that was the flip, wasn't the kind of the contrast. So again, getting back to that puppy thing, for me, when traditionally growing up, it's not in Ireland so much, but certainly when I went to England, for me it was very much in terms of the soldiers, Irish, English, Scottish, all of the Allied forces, but particularly those who fought in the British Army, which all the Irish soldiers would have in World War I. So it was very much in terms of a mark of respect to those people. But that's kind of changed a little bit. I feel as if it's been hijacked the last 20 years. Now all of a sudden we're acknowledging interventions here, there, in Iraq, and all over the place. And that's where it becomes a bit more convoluted.
What changed that? You're absolutely right. What changed that was the Iraq War. And then it doubled up as a nod to the World Wars, but also a sense that, well, our boys are out there serving right now. So it was a constant, regular nod. Like the poppy even became a year-round thing during the Iraq War, and that's what really changed it.
So that's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying, I've worn the poppy over the last 25 years in England. So for me, you're saying what it signifies to the different people. We're all coming from different places. James McLean, we mentioned, and different other people. So for me, we're kind of not kind of withdrawing me, but when I put money into that box and I take the pop and I put it on my chest, they're the kind of clear thoughts in my head in terms of the small little bit of recognition for all the soldiers, but I suppose Irish soldiers in particular for me, obviously because of my background, in terms of those people, the sacrifice they made. So that's why I pinned it on. I don't do it every year. It's not a religious thing. I have to go and get a puppy and put it. I haven't got one this year. Yeah. It's the 100th anniversary this year. But that's what's foremost in my thoughts when I get a puppy and put it. Now it's different for everybody. So that's what we're talking about in terms of a bit of understanding from people and the different situations. So I've no problem. I've no problem publicly coming on air and saying that I've worn the poppy and will wear the poppy going forward. It's not religious things. I'm not making a statement, but these are the reasons why I do it.
In that, you mentioned it, everybody's different. Yeah. Everybody has their own reasons for doing it or not doing it, and that basically should be the end of the story.
Well, it's the problem when it's a sort of...
It's foisted on you.
It's a muddled symbol. It can mean very different things. The exact same symbol can mean very different things to numerous different people, and that's where the trouble kicks in. Interesting, actually, you mentioned, touching World War I in 1916. Pat Kenny had 2 authors on today on News Talk who've written a book about Michael Collins. Fascinating. Like, it sounded really, really brilliant. You should check out the interview if you want. But it just, I don't know, is it because you think of Michael Collins as Liam Neeson in some ways, in a really grim way, you know, just... So, like, Collins, I knew at the time, obviously, but you forget, he was 16 on the Easter Rising.
Yeah.
You know, and in your head, kind of mentally, I think because the film does it a touch, you know, you see a boy there standing outside the GPO in the film, and then suddenly Liam Neeson emerges as Michael Collins. But it's only 4 years later. Like, he's a 20-year-old running this guerrilla war against the Empire, which is frightening. Just twigged with me this morning more so than it had in recent years. How is he doing this at 18, 19, 20?
You're right.
Good underage setup.
Yeah. Got to give the youth a
Underage
chance.
structures.
Yeah.
How many problems did he have with the DDSL, do you reckon?
Well, we'll come on to that.
He's mustard seen league. That's the problem.
Now, I've got 2 for you already. Cunningham's Bar in Ballymore, County Westmeath. Cunningham's Pub Lads, Kildare Town, great spot. There's 2 right off the bat for you.
That's more on the road out of Kildare Town. Oh, you'd know that better than me, Joe. Were you down that way, are you?
I don't know Cunningham's in Kildare Town.
Right,
no.
gotcha. Like, Westmeath.
Ballymore and Westmeath, Cunningham's Bar.
Ballymore, bear that in mind, yeah.
Bear it in mind.
I'd be prepared if I was in the vicinity.
Oh, go on. What would you be prepared to do?
Right, which are you going to do more, right? Which appeals to you better? Going to every Cunningham's bar that gets pointed out on the course next after, or this race with Joe on the road?
You got to do one or the other.
From McSports.
You got to do a Cunningham's version.
I go to the booze. I go to the pub all day the week.
And you don't even drink?
Man. No, I don't drink.
That's amazing.
But I love the pub.
sociability of it.
Yeah, I love the pub.
So would you go to the pub and not drink a bit, yeah?
I always go to the pub and don't drink, Joe. Teetotal.
But you go to the pub a bit, I mean.
Yeah.
Good carvery.
I'm always in the pub. I was in the pub an hour and a half ago before I came here.
Getting his dinner.
Yeah. Turkey carvery. Oh, winner turkey carvery. 9 out of 10. You won't let me mention the establishment now. You accuse me of being
getting freebies.
Don't care.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. That is the tangent to end all tangents.
Wow.
We have 3-4 minutes to try and rip through the more important stories, Rich.
Valencia 3, Young Boys 1 is the other score in Group H at the minute. That had a 5:55 kickoff at the Mestalla. Meanwhile, Manchester City looking to avoid setting a new English football record tonight. City have lost each of their last 3 home games in the Champions League, with no English side having lost 4 in a row in Europe's premier competition. Shakhtar Donetsk are the visitors to the Etihad, where Alexander Zinchenko and Riyad Mahrez come in for Bernard Mendy and Leroy Sané. The other Group F game sees Lyon entertain Hoffenheim. Santi Solari takes charge of Real Madrid in Europe for the first time tonight. The back-to-back winners are in the Czech Republic to face Victoria Plzen. The other game in Group G also kicked off at 5:55, and at the moment it sees Roma leading CSKA in Moscow by 2-1. Kostas Manolas gave Roma an early lead there in Moscow. Arnar Sigurdsson equalised 6 minutes after the break, but then his compatriot Herder Magnusson got sent off, which led to Lorenzo Pellegrini putting Roma 2-1 in front.
I've got that completely wrong. Collins was born in 1890, so he's 26 at the Rising. 26. Still very young to be doing what he was doing 4 or 5 years later, but it changes it somewhat. I hadn't realised he was over in London, actually. So he went over to London for a good few years as an adult and was working there, enjoyed the cosmopolitan life because he'd been in rural Cork, wasn't exposed to all that. So he did a stint in London and kind of came home as much as anything to avoid the draft.
Martin O'Neill wouldn't have enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Went over young, came back young. Doesn't think he's ready for the All-Ireland setup.
So Collins, 1890. 32 when he was killed. God, 32.
I know.
Yeah.
They organised a first national loan as well, during that period. I know there's another tangent, I know, but you're talking about in terms of what he took upon himself.
Yeah, I think that
he did.
I think that was De Valera.
Oh,
I think I heard Dave McWilliams saying that just the other week.
I feel tempted to pull you up on that one as well because you're not having the best of night so far, Joe, are you?
Look, obviously my stock is on the floor here.
Yeah, that sounds like another clutch to me, Joe.
I know a good way to settle this. Rowing race.
Well, on that point, someone says, on rowing, lads, aim for 2K in under 8 minutes. Can you take 8 minutes of pain, Kenny? Under 8 minutes, approximately 200 strokes, just under 2 minutes for every 500 metres. No bother to you, says Connor, who knows what he's talking about, I can presume, unlike me this evening.
I do remember that it's the 2-minute blast, all right, in and around 5. That's full throttle. I mean, getting over 500 is full throttle.
Come on, we have to do this.
2 minutes, 4 of them, no chance, especially not after turkey carvery.
We're not asking you to do it now.
No, but you know when you have a big meal and you just mentally you're not in the right place to make a decision like that.
Beforehand.
Well, I have done. The fact is, I've had a turkey carvery. That's what I'm saying. It's just mentally, I'm shot. The thought of taking on something like that, no.
Sorry, I'm trying to frantically check this here. I think De Valera was involved in setting up the credit unions. but that would have been in the 60s.
He's backtracking again, Rich. He's backtracking again.
Very similar though, it's not a million miles off.
Oh my God.
So you think Collins set up what?
Wasn't it the
First national loan is what you're saying.
national loan stroke lottery? What was it?
Lottery.
I'm trying to Google here. This is not going to make
This
good
is
radio.
fantastic radio.
Oh, hang on.
Go on.
National Loan 1920, General Michael Collins. Within days of being appointed Minister for Finance, Kenny.
Boom.
This is impressive out of you.
Good work,
Pretend
Eddie.
it.
Good work.
Within days of being appointed Minister for Finance in 1919, Michael Collins, then of course aged 20.
According to Joe, 11.
Get this right, Nick.
He was 11 years of age, according to Joe.
Played by Haley Joel Osment.
Minister of Finance, 1999. Collins said about raising funds necessary if Dáil Éireann was to fulfil its stated ambition of providing an alternative government to the British one. Immediate needs associated. Bum, 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 bum. There's kind of more information here. I'm trying to...
Basically, I'm right. Basically, I'm right. You're wrong.
Three-time
That's what
IMRO
you're trying to
award
say,
winner.
Joe.
3-time IMRO award winner. 4. Jesus. I love that he suddenly went 4.
I correct you there. Collins took responsibility for raising the domestic part of the loan. No, there's too much here to read. But I think you're right because the headline is National Loan 1920 and Collins is the Minister for Finance. So
Thank you.
I'll give you that.
Apology accepted. Let's move on.
Right. Very last story then, Richie. Very last.
Noel King's retired as the head coach of the Republic of Ireland under-21 side. The former Shamrock Rovers and Limerick boss has been in charge of the 21 since 2010, but has never qualified for a tournament during his 8-year reign. King, despite his retirement from that role, is moving into a full-time position of player identification manager for the FAI. The FAI say the process to recruit a new head coach for the 21s will begin in due course.
We'll talk about that later on in the football show, get Kenny's thoughts. Quite a number of former players linked to it. Robbie Keane's been linked to it. Mark Hinsel has been obviously working with King at the moment, and then Lee Carsley's name's come up. He's done amazing things over in the UK. You wonder would he even be interested. He seems to be working at the real elite underage level there, so we'll talk about it later on. Now, before I go, I've got to give you a chance to enter our competition. Off the Ball and McSport are trying to get you fit for Christmas. So McSport.ie, Ireland's largest supplier of sports and fitness equipment. Over 7,000 products covering 60 different sports and fitness categories, including, Kenny, rowing machines, spin bikes, power racks, weight benches. Every night this week, we're giving you the chance to win a €100 gift card, and you'll also go into our end of week draw to win a €1,000 gift card. So, to enter, just identify our mystery voice who had a nerve-wracking experience when he visited the House of Horrors at his local carnival over Halloween break.
Yeah, I was obviously a bit nervous when you first walk in.
Text your name and answer 53106 for 30 cents. We'll announce the winner at the end of the show, all with thanks to McSport.ie. Visit their showroom in the Sandyford Industrial Estate in Dublin or shop online at McSport.ie. Somebody says that they had no idea Kenny was such a fine historian. Another reason to listen to the show, says Drew in Cork. You interested in history, yeah?
Not overly, but I did, funny enough, as a stranger, and probably not the first when I first went to England. I found myself reading a lot of Irish history, I'd say, for a number of years when I first went over. Kind of threw myself into it. Not a conscious decision. I don't know what, it's a strange one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like when you're over here, you know, take it or leave it, you know, you take what's thrown at you in school. But it was only when I went over to London, got a bit more of an appetite in terms of, for a bit more of Irish history, probably around that time actually, turn of the century, 20th century, whatever, around the time that we're talking about. So yeah, would have thrown myself into that quite a bit.
No, good. Well, we should have some conversations. Believe it or not, I have a degree in history. I haven't based my learnings on Michael Collins.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
The movie. And then Liam Neeson came along. No, I've actually spent 3 years at university studying this stuff.
Thrown in the fact you've got a degree there, Joe. Time PBI winner.
Oh dear.
Degree holder.
Like, honestly, Liam Neeson, that was my reference point.
That was it.
Who says education's a waste of time?
That was as good as it got for you tonight.
It was, yeah.
Joe can only tell history if it was played in film.
So,
as evidenced by last night's world champion Russell Crowe.
Yeah,
James Braddock. I know his actual name. Come on. So next up, we'll bring you Paul Pogba was talking to the media. We'll play some of that. We'll talk to Kenny in a bit more depth about United Juve, and then Graham Hunter will talk to us, Real Madrid play as well this evening, about the managerial situation there. And interestingly, at the weekend, both Sergio Ramos and Gareth Bale were being booed by the Madrid fans. So we'll talk to Graham as well.
What type of midfielder is Herrera? He's not a box-to-box, he's not defensive, he can't do a killer pass. Why is he on the pitch for what? See him come here and boss us at Old Trafford. This is Man United talking. See him come here and boss us. Rojo, what was his tactics? As soon as you get Rojo, just boot it. We're not Stoke. We're Man United here. Watch. That was diabolical.